Hi, I'm Adam Drake from Mugen Seiki Racing. Today I have a couple new option parts for the MBX8 line of vehicles. It's the new optional C blocks that basically bolt to the rear gearbox and adjust the toe on your vehicles. So we have an optional plus 2mm block as well as a plus 4, and then the traditional or the standard block that comes on all the MBX8 vehicles. So I'm going to show you a little bit closer look, talk about some of the conditions when you would want to use the standard block versus the plus 2 and plus 4. Okay, so currently we have the standard toe block on my MBX8 Eco Buggy, and the toe range with that pivot block will be from 2.5 to 3 degrees depending on where you're at with the pills in the D block. So if you're running the standard middle down position that we run most of the time, you'd be running 2.75 degrees of toe. If you run out, it would be 3 degrees of toe, and it would be 2.5. Now, with the optional plus 2 and plus 4 pivots, it gives you the ability to reduce the amount of toe because this block is wider. And what the plus 2 and plus 4 refer to is that the hinge pin locations have been moved 2 millimeters further apart and 4 millimeters further apart. So essentially it's 1 millimeter per side or 2 millimeters per side. And the wider pivot will also increase the wheelbase or make the car longer because you currently have angle in the arms. As you're reducing that angle, because you're reducing the amount of toe, it moves the rear axles back. So one thing to consider is you may want to adjust your wheelbase slightly when going to the plus 2 or plus 4. It just depends on the track conditions. So for most track conditions, your kind of standard medium to low grip track, we're going to stay with the standard C block. If you're on a really high grip track or even a track that has a lot of bumps, you would go to the plus 2. And what this is going to do is it's going to make the off power steering a lot smoother, but it's going to take away some of the support of the rear end because, again, the wheelbase is a little longer, your dog bone angle is a little bit less. And what that's going to do is increase the amount of steering through the middle of the corner and also the exit. So if you're someone who likes a lot of traction on throttle, you're going to want to stay with the standard C block. But if you're on a track that's really high grip and the car feels too locked in and doesn't have enough rotation through the middle and exit of the corner, you would want to go to the plus 2 or maybe even the plus 4 if it's extremely high grip. Like I mentioned, it's going to reduce a little bit of support from the rear of the vehicle. So when going to these pivots, I always like to make one change at a time. I would just change the pivot, and then my next change would be to possibly adjust wheelbase or to increase the amount of anti-squat. By increasing the amount of anti-squat, it's going to give it some more support on throttle and give it that forward drive on the exit of the turn that these wider pivots are going to kind of take away. Another thing that you're going to need to consider when going to the plus 2 or the plus 4 is you'll also need to readjust your camber slightly. As the pivot's wider, again, it moves those axles back. If you don't readjust your camber, you're going to end up with a lot more negative camber when going to the wider pivot. So something just to consider if you do go to the plus 2 or the plus 4. Another change that may be good to kind of increase a little bit of support on throttle and give a little bit more stability on exit of the turn, if you're running these optional pivots, would be to go to a little bit thicker sway bar. But again, these are a tuning option that are more used for like higher speed, higher grip tracks. The standard C block tends to provide the most just forward drive on exit of the turn, but it's going to drive a little bit more square. These pivots are going to kind of round the turn, give a little bit more kind of rotation or just more fluid, natural steering through the middle of the corner. And these are both available through MugenRacing.com as option parts for all the MBX8 line of vehicles, buggy and truggy, nitro and electric.